It's an interesting perspective that a lot of people in the Midwest don't have because they look like me, and we're used to our own set of experiences. And I think without understanding what people who look differently go through, it's tough to relate to that on a personal level. That's the only reason I asked.
Gotcha,
but if you don't feel like sharing, don't feel
I
like
guess
you have
I just want to make sure that people all understand that when things like that were happening, again, I believe it's for lack of understanding and just what you're being taught. Like their grandparents didn't know colorful people, or if they did, it was probably in a negative setting, depending on where they were in the world, wars and things of that nature, and just definitely a lot more segregation. So it's understanding that they didn't understand and they passed it down. I think somewhere in my generation, it kind of like, at least in my town, it kind of like they got it together a little bit. But not all the way, because I definitely saw other people come through that had to like get scrutiny before they were accepted. My brother and sister being some of them. They moved back in with my dad when I was right about finished with high school. And there was people that I knew personally that called them the N-word.
Okay.
Not knowing who they were at all. But does that matter? Like, does it matter that they were... No. It doesn't matter if they were Big Tony's kids or anybody else's. It doesn't matter. You should never say things like that. I found out about it, and it was... I was a tomboy. I was raised by my daddy, so I just am who I am. I just am, that it just is what it is. And so I found out, and back then, if you said, and still to this day, I think that's anybody, but you hurt my brother and sister, you made my sister cry. So now I have to beat you up in the hallway. And so I confronted the person, and I definitely had words with them, and I didn't beat them up, because if I've ever put my hands on anybody, I've turned around and apologized, because I just...
It's very Midwest of you, too. Like, I'm sorry for kicking your ass. I really didn't mean it.
But you deserved it. I hope you learned a lesson. Can I help you out, please? Yeah. It's an honest to God story of something that I've done in my... So I never really... I'm not one for hurting people in that fashion, but I had words, and I don't know, things of that nature did happen. So I witnessed it, and I was called that when I was younger. The N-word was something that was thrown around. And I guess the story that I think everyone can relate to is a bicycle, like your first bicycle when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And so I had finally gotten my first bicycle. And I will go back to say that my family was poor. Like we were poor at that juncture of time, and growing up, that is just what it was. So when I got a bike, that was a big deal. That was a really, really big deal. And it was so pretty. It had a banana seat, and I'll remember that forever. And it was like pink and white, which now the color pink is not my favorite thing ever. So
but back then
I loved it. Yeah, it was pink and white, pretty little. Anyways, all frilly and girly. And I was really excited about it, and I talked about it, and I think I got to ride it maybe once. And somebody who didn't like brown people, we would pile into my grandma and grandpa's station wagon. My youngest aunt is a year older than me. So we had a big family, as we chatted about.
Yeah.
So we'd pile into the station wagon and go to Appleton and go shopping, little rummage sales, whatever. We would do all kinds of things like that when we were growing up. And I came home, and my bike was in the front yard, sawed in half. And I was heartbroken. And I felt I knew who did it, because I knew the person that didn't like me because I was an N-word. I knew the family. I knew who I believed it to be. And they, of course, reported it to the police, because there's no way we're going to get me another bike. And I didn't get another bike either for a long time. And that's what I think. If anything, just imagine being a kid who just got a bike. It doesn't matter that I was a brown kid. Just imagine being a kid who had something that they really, really loved for the first time ever, and it was really hard to get, and somebody took it away because their ignorance caused them to not like that person. And that's a really sad thing to do. We went to the police about it, and they said, we can't prove that is the person who did it. So we're just going to give them a slap on the wrist at that time, I thought they were going to actually hit them and slap them on the wrist.
Only if they're a nun. Only if they're a nun.
And I begged them not to. I said, don't do that. God. So I don't know. I was taught understanding and love really, really well. So I think it does seep out of me, but it's a thing that you have to remind people because not everybody knows.